Well, hey, welcome everybody to our session here today on automated certificates with Google Tools. Still got just a couple of minutes before we get started here, but wanted to welcome you guys to this session. In the meantime, while we're waiting to get started, please feel free to introduce yourself in the YouTube chat for those that are here live. Thanks to those that are watching the recording in the future. With those that are here live, feel free to introduce yourself in the chat. Great to see so many familiar faces, but also some new folks in the chat there as well. That is awesome. Again, we'll be getting started in just about a minute or two. In the meantime, if you want to get some things queued up for the session, you'll see a link that I'm displaying here on the screen. Actually, I'm going to probably have to turn off my camera because I think I'm covering covering part of it here. Here, I'll stop my camera there. It's the bit.ly link you see at the top there, bit.ly/Kurtz-AutoCert. That'll get you to a Google document that looks like this. Feel free to bookmark this document. Feel free to add it to your drive. Feel free to make a copy if you want. The only problem with making a copy is if I ever make updates in the future, then you'll just have that one static copy of it. So might be easier to bookmark it or add it to your drive. But that's the resource document we're going to be pulling from during the session. So again, just about another minute. Looks like we're just about ready to get started here. So again, I just want to thank you guys so much for being here. Appreciate you taking the time out of your day to join us live, and for those that are watching the recording later as well. All right, and it looks like we are at the time to get started with our webinar. So we are going to go ahead and launch into this now. I'm going to turn on my camera again for just a moment so I can see you guys, but then I'll turn it back off. I guess so you can see me, I guess is what I meant to say, sorry. And then I will turn that off once we get started. But just while I'm doing the quick little introduction here, say howdy to everybody. So welcome again to our session, our webinar today on automated certificates with Google Tools. Start off with a very quick, brief little introduction here. So hello to everybody. My name is Eric Kurtz. I am an educator in Northeast Ohio. I work for the Stark County Educational Service Center. Specifically, I work for SPARC, the Stark Portage Area Computer Consortium, which is part of the Stark County Educational Service Center here in Northeast Ohio. This is my 30th year in education. I started off as a middle school math teacher, taught middle school math for 7 years before moving into a role as a tech coach or a tech integrationist. And I have been doing that ever since. So that's my day job, is providing technology integration support to about 35 school districts up here in Northeast Ohio. On the side, though, I'm also a Google certified trainer and innovator and educator, and I run the blog at controlaltachieve.com. Would certainly encourage you to check out the site later. If you haven't had a chance to see it before, I'll throw a link in the chat for that as well, but it's just controlaltachieve.com. That's where I share all of my resources, so all of my blog posts and training videos and templates and projects and all kinds of resources there. So definitely check out that site if you haven't done that recently to get tapped into all the resources that I'm sharing there. Today, though, the resource that I'm going to want you guys to be focusing in on is I'm going to stop my video again here so that I get my face off the screen, is this bit.ly address that I have up here on the screen. We're going to be diving specifically into this document here at bit.ly/Kurtz-AutoCert. Now, I will drop that link into the chat again for those. If it's easier just to click on the link in the chat, awesome. So I'm going to put that into the YouTube chat there. But for everybody else who's watching the recording, or if it's just easier to type it in, this bit.ly address will get you there, bit.ly/Kurtz-AutoCert. That'll get you to this Google document that has all of the resources we'll be working through here today. So let's talk about what is it that we're talking about today? What is this all about? So real quick, a little bit of background behind where this webinar came from. So the idea is that most of us are part of some kind of an organization, probably a school district, maybe an educational service center, like in my case. I'm at the, like the county office, but most of us are in some sort of an educational organization. And if you're not, that's totally fine. This does not have to be just for educators. Anybody is certainly welcome to benefit from this, but most of us are in organizations where one of the things we probably need to do is we need to run meetings, whether that's, regular meetings or, trainings like we're doing today, maybe, some periodic events. And a lot of times we need to keep track of who attended our staff meeting or who attended our PD, who attended our event. And in addition to tracking who attended it, we normally want to generate some certificates to say, hey, thanks for attending. Here is your 1 hour certificate of attendance or whatever the case might be. Well, that's pretty important. A lot of schools need that. A lot of teachers need those contact hours to get renewed and so forth. And of course, it would be great if we collected that attendance, generated those certificates, and also could analyze the information later, kind of like look at the evaluations and look to see, are certain schools attending more than others? And, are there certain, people that have been, showing up at a lot of our meetings, or is there somebody new that we need to add to maybe our email list, things like that. And that's a pretty common issue. That's nothing new. That's something that we've dealt with for years and years and years and years and years. And so I have for many years done this sort of as a sort of like a one at a time thing. If there was a meeting, I would end up creating a Google form for the meeting, and then maybe using a tool like Autocrat to do a mail merge and generate certificates. But I would do it over and over and over again. So every time there'd be a new meeting, somebody may say, hey, Eric, can you help put together an attendance tracking thing and a certificate generation tool for us for our training? I'd say, sure thing, and I'd be happy, and I'd set one up for folks. And I would do the same thing for different webinars I would do and so forth. Well, recently at my work, some folks were asking about this and saying, is there, a one-stop shop solution so that, instead of having to always make a new form, make a new spreadsheet, make a new certificate, over and over and over again, is there something we could do that would kind of work as a one-stop shop? And so I did take some time and I looked at some products that are out there, and there are some fantastic products out there. There really are. Of course, they come with a price tag, and I'm sure those products do a better job than what I'm going to show you today, my free alternative. And I would certainly, encourage you to explore those other products. And if you have a solution that you'd like to recommend, please throw it in the chat. I'd love to hear what you guys are currently using to take attendance and generate certificates and analyze all of that. There are a lot of great options out there, but I do understand that's not always an option. Schools, budgets are tight, and sometimes you're like, well, we got to cut somewhere. We got to be careful somewhere. And so maybe we can't afford this, multi-$1,000 product that's going to help us manage this. And so what I did was I kind of sat back and thought, okay, if we had to do this for free, what could we build? What could we make? So I took some time and I used the good old favorite, standby tools: Google Forms, Google Sheets, Google Docs, Autocrat, Form Ranger. All of these are free tools. And I put together a system that I think is pretty decent. I think it's a pretty decent system. I can guarantee you it's not perfect. And I am excited to hear your suggestions today as I share this. If you think there's something that could make it better, I guarantee you there are things that would make it better. And so your ideas are very welcome. And I'm sure over the coming months and years, I will probably tweak this, a dozen different ways. But I got to a spot that I felt pretty good about it. And we've started using it at our county office, this one-stop shop system, and it has done a really nice job. So that's what we're going to be taking a look at today. And so what I'd like to do today is I'm going to start off with a quick demonstration. So I just want to show you the end product first. So it's kind of like if this was a cooking show, I'd be bringing the cake out of the oven and say, okay, well, this one's already done. It's already done cooking. And here it is. Here's the final product. So we're going to start with the end, and we're going to run through and just see what it would look like with it totally set up and ready to go, and go ahead and, do a quick demo of that. After that, though, I'm going to spend the rest of the time saying, okay, if that sounded good to you, if that looked like a neat system, here's how you get your own copies. And so basically, we're going to talk about how to make copies of my templates and the one-time setup steps you need to go through. Now, they can be a little intimidating the first time you go through it, but it's a one-time procedure, and I've got all the step-by-step directions in the agenda document, and I will be going through those with you so you can refer to the video in the future. And it's all one time. Once you get Autocrat set up and Form Ranger set up and you do it all once, after that, it's pretty much just let it run. It's, once you get it set up, it's going to be able to go on its own after that. So we're going to talk about how to do that, and I'll mimic that. I'll pull up a demo account and I will start from scratch. I'll make copies of the templates. I'll run through the full setup, show you how to get it all going and share it out and keep it maintained going forward. So that's the idea. Now, again, I'm not going to say this is the end all be all best system in the world for taking attendance and generating certificates, but it does the job, and I think it does a decent job. If this is valuable to you, please feel free to use it. Obviously, I'm offering this for free for anybody to use. That's my philosophy, is all about sharing our ideas. And so, and also you are certainly welcome to iterate upon this. If you make copies of these templates and decide, hey, that's kind of cool, but I think I'd really like to change this, do something different with it, that's fine. Have at it. Feel free to make modifications. My only suggestion would be, please share those ideas with me. If you end up adding in some new things to it, or you find something that you think makes it work better, that's great. Just send that info my way. I'd appreciate it, so that perhaps I can make similar adjustments as well on my end. All right, there you go. That's the plan, guys. As a reminder, if anybody has joined us a little bit late, all of the resources can be found at bit.ly/Kurtz-AutoCert. That will get you to that Google document that has the templates and all the resources in there. All right, looks good. Fantastic. So we're going to go ahead and get started. I'm going to do my best, just so you know, to keep an eye on the chat while we go through here. Fair warning, I have two eyes, but I only have one brain. So I may not be able to catch everything in the chat. So if there's something that does need to get addressed, and if I miss it, please feel free to put it back in the chat again, and I will occasionally pause and look over to the side here and see if I can notice anything that I've missed in the chat. So please don't feel bad about bugging me if you need to put something in there more than once. Thanks to everybody who is here, though. Thanks for the kind words so far, and everybody greeting each other. I appreciate seeing where everybody is from. All right, let's go ahead and get on into it. So what I'd like to do, first of all, like I said, is I'd like to start with the overview and the demonstration. So at this point, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the finished product. So, completely done, set up, ready to go. Everything is already configured. And I'm going to run through that and show you what that looks like and how it all works. Then we're going to go back to square one, and we'll go through how you can set it up. But this will give you an idea of whether or not you even want to make copies of this stuff. So let's go ahead and go into the overview of how this works. So the way the system works, and here's my Google Drive, and I've got a folder set up called Demo Certificates, and that's where I have put all of this content for this quick demo we're going to do here. This is all obviously just a copy of the templates that I've modified for our demonstration here. But basically what you're going to have with this system is you're going to have a folder. Of course, you'll create that, and we'll talk you through all those steps here after we go through the quick demo. You're going to create a folder that's going to hold everything. And in that folder, there's going to be three main files. There's going to be a Google document, a Google form, and a Google spreadsheet. There'll also be a subfolder that will hold the merged certificates. But that's it. That's the whole system. Everything fits right there in that folder. Let's talk about these different files that are in that folder. So first of all, you got the Google document. The Google document is the certificate template. So this is just a regular old Google Doc where I put in a few placeholders for the person's first name, their last name, the title of the workshop, the date and time that the event was held, the date and time that they got their certificate, the objectives for that particular meeting or training, and then how many hours that they are being awarded for that. And again, we'll talk all about going in and modifying this yourself. Right now, we're just looking at the final product, this demo that I've put together here just to show you how it works. So in this case, I'm using Demo School District with John Doe and Jane Smith as our superintendent and curriculum director. So that's the first piece of it, is we do have this Google document that will serve as the template for the certificate. Okay, the next thing that's in that folder is the Google form, and the Google form is what people are going to fill out to say, hey, I attended a session. And it's got a spot to collect their email address, a spot to say what session did they attend. I did go with an approach where people need to enter a code to prove they attended the session. Sometimes that can be an issue and you want to have some accountability in there. So the approach I took for this was that during the session, near the end or something, you could say, oh, and by the way, the code for this session is blah, blah, blah. And then people, when they fill out the form, they can type that in, and that proves to a degree that they were there, that they watched the video or they attended the session live. So there's a section there for them to type in the code. Then there's a spot for their first and last name, what school district or organization they're from. Now you may say, well, Eric, we're just using this for our own school. Well, that's fine. You could do your different buildings, and what building are you from, or what department are you from? Yeah, any of those would be fine. In this case, I'm just kind of thinking from a regional service center. So I might be serving a bunch of different schools. So I've got demo city schools and demo local schools and demo organization in there. We've also included in the form a very quick evaluation so that people can just give us a 1 to 5 rating, and then optionally a paragraph feedback box where they could just give feedback. The idea, though, is to keep this super simple. I don't want this to be something that's cumbersome for people to fill out. Basically, they're putting in their email, they're selecting the session they attended, putting the code in to prove they attended that session, putting in their name, where they're from, and at least giving a 5-point evaluation. And that's it. So that's the basic form there. Then the third piece of this, so we've got our Google document certificate, our Google form that people fill out. The third piece is where all the action happens. This is really where the stuff occurs, and that is the spreadsheet. So here's the spreadsheet, and it may look a little intimidating at first, but we'll go through everything in here. And there's really not much. When we talk about setting this up, you'll realize once you've got it set up once, most of this you can just kind of forget about, and it just runs on its own. But I will run through all the different things that you're seeing here. So this is the spreadsheet that collects the submissions. Now, obviously, I put in a bunch of fake ones here. These are just some demo students that I've used to pre-populate this, just so we can kind of see what this would look like. But this is the spreadsheet that collects the submissions. And actually, the first how many columns is it? Up to letter I, up to column I. That's straight from the form. Everything from A through I. That's their email address, the session, the code, their name, the school district, the evaluation, the feedback. Everything after that, though, is formulas that are doing some calculations and pulling in some key information and making sure they really had the right code, and then approving or not approving them, and then running the certificate merge. So all of that stuff to the right of that is stuff you don't have to worry about. That's getting all calculated for you there. Then at the bottom, you'll see there's a bunch of tabs here. And the second tab over, called Sessions, is where we put in the sessions that we want people to be able to get certificates for. The way this system has been set up, again, is I want this to be as simple as possible, so people don't have to know how to do anything fancy. Once it's set up, it's just so easy to use. The idea is this is where you would come to add in any sessions that you want to offer. And then as you add sessions in on the Sessions tab, they automatically show up on the Google form. And we'll talk more about how that works in a moment. That's using a tool called Form Ranger. So you're not going to go in and actually type in anything on this form to edit it. You never, once you've got the form set up once, you never have to touch it again. And you can use the same form link every time. You don't need a new link for each session. It's like, this is it. This is the link. Use this form and pick whatever session you attended, and it will automatically have those in there. So for example, I've got some sample sessions in here right now. Let's say I go ahead and add an extra session in here just so you can see what this would look like from the administrator's point of view, so to speak. So for example, let's say I needed to do another session here on engaging ELA activities with Google Docs. So I would fill in the title there, and then I'd put in the date. We'll just say it was like September 1st. I'm just, not real sessions here, just putting these in. And so we'll put in our date there, and then we'll put in the time. We'll say it was maybe a 4 o'clock to 5 o'clock session. So we'll put that in. And how many hours is it? Well, that's a 1 hour session. And what about objectives? So yeah, we got some objectives for this. We'll go ahead and I've got these in another tab here. So I'll just copy and paste them into here so we can see them. There we go. Throw in some objectives so that people know what they're getting their certificate for. That looks pretty good. And by the way, while we're doing the objectives thing, if you need to have line breaks, like I've got on a lot of these, just heads up, you can do that by pressing Control Enter or Command Enter. If you haven't, be Control Enter on like a PC or a Chromebook. Probably on a Mac, I'd imagine it'd be Command Enter. So if I need like another line here and I pressed my Control key and the Enter key, it actually gives me a line break inside of the cell. So that's one way you can go about getting line breaks in there. Awesome. Excellent. Whoops. There we go. I think I got that all in there right now. Excellent. So we got our title, our date, our time, our hours, and our objectives. After that, we just need to put in some kind of a code. And it can be really anything you want. I would just say something simple. So, a 3-digit number, a 4-digit number, a short word, I'll just put in, 1, 2, 3. That can be the code for that particular session. And then lastly, there's a spot here for a follow-up message. If you want to put that in, you certainly don't have to. These, I would say, are required. You would definitely want to have a title for every session. You'd want to have the date and time of the session, how many credit or contact hours they're getting, and the objectives and the code to prove they were really there. The follow-up message, that's optional. If you wanted to include some other blurb going out with the email. So when they get their email saying, hey, here's your certificate, thanks for attending. If you wanted a custom follow-up message, you could put that in there. So for example, in this case, I might put in something like, for session resources, visit, and I could put in like the link that has the resources for the session, or I don't know, maybe it's like, don't forget, our next meeting is, October such and such a date, any that can be customized for each individual session. So the idea is this is the nerve center of where this is all occurring. You're going to come to the spreadsheet, you're going to come to the sessions tab, and here you'll fill in any sessions that you want to give your certificates for, whether it's a training, a staff meeting, whatever it might be. Now, do notice there is this little checkbox here as well. That is the active column, and you check that when you want this particular session to be available. If it's not checked, it's not going to show up in the form. The form is only pulling whichever ones here have been checked as being live and active. So for example, I could say, hey, let's go ahead and turn on engaging ELA activities. But I don't know, maybe this one from back in July, Google Tools for Struggling Students, maybe we're no longer giving, a certificate for that. It's been too long, and again, totally up to you. There's no you could, these things could stay on here as long as you want, but maybe it was a live in-person meeting and there's nothing, recorded. There's nothing they can watch later. It's just, hey, were you at the meeting or not? So maybe you just want to leave it live for a day or two. And if they haven't filled it out within the next 2 days, then, well, time to turn off that particular session, for example. So that's the idea behind that. So there we go. So as the administrator, the person running this, I've already gone in and I've customized this document to have, my superintendent and curriculum director and the title of our school district. I've maybe customized the form to, include the school districts, the list of the school districts that we're serving. And I've gone into the spreadsheet, and in the spreadsheet, I've gone to the sessions tab and I've added in any upcoming sessions. And if it's time for them to be live, I've checked the box to make them live. Now at that point, and of course, I've already set up the mail merge stuff. We'll show you that when we go through the how do you set it up yourself thing. Just, I don't want to gloss over it, but yes, I have set up Autocrat here inside of the Google Sheet, and we'll show you how all of that is done. That's what's going to be doing the mail merging. And I've set up in my Google form, I've set up a thing called Form Ranger. Form Ranger is the add-on that pulls the content from my spreadsheet here into the Google form here. You may say, Eric, I don't see any difference. You just added this engaging ELA activities and I don't see it on the form. And you took off struggling students and it's still there. I still see it. Well, so anything that's automated has to have some kind of a trigger to make it run. And so Form Ranger can run on a time-based trigger. So the way I've got it set up is the fastest you can make it run is every hour. So every hour Form Ranger checks to see, hey, is there something new in the spreadsheet? And then it updates this. Now, we're not going to wait an hour to see this update. And normally that would be fine. You can just say, oh, let's just check this one for tomorrow. And now it's available. And by tomorrow, it'll show up in the form. If you're like, no, we actually need it to show up like right now. All you have to do, it's really easy, is from the form. If you go up to the add-ons button, and if you open up Form Ranger, just opening it up kind of triggers it and it makes it run. So you don't have to wait an hour if you don't want to. So in this case, let's see if we can make the struggling students go away and the ELA activities show up. I'll just go up to my add-ons. I'll go down to Form Ranger and I'll click on Start. And that's really it. Once it opens up, it'll do its thing and then I can just close right back out of it. And you can see there it did it. The ELA activities is now showing up in the sessions and the struggling students one is no longer there. So I don't have to like do anything. As long as it's set up, anytime I need to, I can just come here and open up Form Ranger and that does the thing and it pulls it in. All right. So at this point, I'd be ready for my pretend attendees to come and fill out the form. So let's do that. Let's have a pretend attendee come over here. Let me find, I got so many tabs here. Let's see. I believe we're going to use this one here. This is my demo student, I believe. Yes. So I'm going to use this demo student here. And let me grab the link for the form. So we'll come up here and click on the eyeball button to get the link for our form. And I'm going to copy that link and I'm going to say I've just done this session on ELA activities and the session is done and I just told everybody, hey, make sure you go fill out the form and put in code 123 to get your certificate. So let's say we come over here and we put the link to the form in and here they are. So here is the demo attendee who has just come along. I'm going to use, of course, that demo email address for their email address there, and they're going to have attended the engaging ELA activities. And so they'll pick that out of the list. Do notice it lists them reverse chronologically. So it's the most recent going backwards. And even if you put them in a different order on this sheet, it will rearrange them here for you, which is great. All right, so they pick the session, they put in the code. We'll say that they know the code, 123. We'll put in our name. This student's name is Jim, and his last name is Shorts. There you go. And then the district he's just from Demo City Schools, and he loved this session. He thought it was great, and he gives some feedback here. Awesome ideas. Can't wait to try these with my students. All right. All right. So, so the attendee has filled out the form, and as soon as they hit submit, what should happen is this should come into the form responses tab. We should get a new row getting entered here. So we'll see the students or the attendees information come in. And then once that gets in, all of these formulas should automatically fill in. And then a mail merge should start running over here to send out their certificate, assuming they have the right, the correct code. So let's try it out. Let's go ahead and hit submit. And then we'll move this off of the screen here and we can see, yep, there we go. So here we have on row 15, Jim Shorts has filled out this for the session on engaging ELA activities. And all these formulas automatically appeared and filled in. And then way over here, the last 4 columns, these are the merge columns, and they filled in. So it ran. Yep. So the merge just ran and a certificate just got sent out to that student, or I keep saying student. It's a demo student account I'm using, but the attendee. Now, what does that look like for them? Well, let's go open up their Gmail because they should be receiving an email saying, here's your certificate. Let's see if it's made it there already. And there it is at the very top. Yep. So let's click on this and it says, your certificate of completion is attached for the following event. There's the title, the date, the time, the contact hours, the objectives. Here's that follow-up message saying for more resources. And then here's their certificate. It's got their name, the activity, the date of the event, the date when they got their certificate, the objectives, and the contact hours at the bottom there. So nice and straightforward. That worked pretty well. That worked real well. Now, as for me, I mean, so for the attendee, it was pretty simple. All the attendee had to do was, as long as they had a link to the form, they're in good shape. And again, that link never has to change. You can use the same link for every single event you do, because the sessions are going to be pulled in, live each time, which is awesome. You don't have to give people a new one each time. So as long as they have that link, and that link can be turned into a bit.ly link, or that link can be turned into a QR code, or that link could just be put right into the Google document agenda for the meeting. As long as they have the link, they're just filling out, hey, here's who I am. And here's the code, and this is the session I attended, and boom, there's their certificate. Now, what about me as the technology integration person who's running this? What benefits do I get from it? Well, first of all, hopefully it's going to save me a lot of time, and that I don't have to, every time there's another meeting, say, well, time to make a new Google form and figure out a new merge and all that. Nope. I don't have to do anything with the certificate. Once it's set up, it's done. No changes to that. I don't have to do anything to the form. Once I've set it up, I never have to touch the form again. It's just ready to go. The only thing I ever have to do is come here to my sessions tab and add new sessions and uncheck old ones that I don't want anymore to be available. Now, there's other benefits to it besides that. In addition to it, collecting this information and running the merge and sending them their certificate, there's also some more tabs across here at the bottom, and these are the blue tabs. And the blue tabs are the reports. And at the moment, I've got 5 different report tabs. Now, there's not a lot of data in here yet. Looks like, what do I have? Maybe 13 or so entries. So it's not going to be too impressive. But look what we can do now that we've been using this and collecting these submissions on these 5 or so sessions that we've held. So what you're going to see is there's these tabs across the bottom. The first blue tab is called session attendance. So on this tab, what you do is you type in the session ID number, and it will give you a list of who all attended that particular session. Well, what's the session ID? Well, that, if you go back to the sessions tab, that's what you get here in column A, this ID number. Now, you'll notice column A and B are red. That's because we don't need to change these. They're red for a purpose. Don't change those. Leave those alone. A and B will auto-populate. The ID is already there. The unique ID gets generated from that and this content you have here. So don't change these. Don't do anything with columns A and B, but say, okay, let's say I wanted to check out how things went on this Google Tools for Struggling Students session we had. That was ID number 2. Well, what I can do is come here to the session attendance, type in the number 2 and press enter, and there we go. It will pull in the title, the date, the time, the number of attendees, and an alphabetical list of who the attendees were: last name, first name, email, and organization. So I can put in, session 3 or session 4 or session 5. Any session that I type in, as soon as I type it in, it then goes ahead and it pulls in that information for that. So this is a list of who attended a particular session. The next report over is called user attendance. For this, we put in the email address of a particular user, and then it gives you a list of everything that user has attended. So I'm going to go ahead and let me just copy demo student 1. I'll just copy their address. And if I put their address in here, there we go. It now says this is Jim Schwartz from Demo City Schools, a total of 6.5 hours of attendance. Here's all of the sessions that he has attended. And by attended, what I mean is not just filled this out, but got approved. And by approved, what I mean is the attendee typed in a code that matched the code I had for the session. And so it actually got a yes here and it went through as approved. If there's any with a no in there, those are not going to show up as valid. So it's just going to give you anything that they have attended. And so you get a full list of all of the sessions that they've been at. The next one up is the organization attendance. So if you're supporting multiple school districts or multiple buildings, this is a drop down. And what it does is it looks through to see all of the different organizations that, have submitted their attendance, and it gives you a drop down and you can pick from there. So you don't have to fill this in, it picks those for you. So I could say, okay, show me everybody from Demo City Schools. And now I get a list of everybody from Demo City Schools, alphabetically listed, and then by date, all the sessions they attended. The next tab over is session evaluation tab. Again, you put the ID number in. So if I put in like number 3, that'll pull in the hipster Google session here. And I can see how many 5, 4s, 3s, 2s, and 1s I received, an average score for that session, and then any free form comments that were submitted as well. So very nice. And then the last tab here, the fifth of the report tabs, is the organization count. This is just a pivot table. And what it does is it just gives you a count of how many certificates have been given out per organization. So if you're, again, serving a lot of schools or a lot of school districts, you could see, oh, wow, we're getting a lot of attendance from XYZ school district, but barely getting any from this other one. Maybe we need to connect with them more and see why their teachers are not taking advantage of some of these things as much. There are a few more tabs. They're red, which means you can ignore them. So don't worry about those tabs. I could hide them, but it's fine. They're not necessary for you to do anything to. Okay, so that is the end result. What I want to do now, we're going to switch gears here in just a second, is we're going to say, if that looks valuable, feel like, okay, that's cool. Actually, I think I could use this. What I want to do is say, let's start from scratch. Let's say I'm going to pull up an account that has none of this installed at all, and I'm going to start from scratch. I'm going to make copies of the spreadsheet and the form and the document. I'm going to show you where to put them, and we're going to go through and configure Autocrat and configure Form Ranger and get all of that done so that we would be able to see how you could replicate this if you want to. Now, before I do that, I'm going to take a moment. I'm going to look at the chat because I've seen some things moving out of the corner of my eye here. So I have a feeling there's probably some questions in there. If not, no biggie, but I do want to at least pause since we're about halfway through and make sure that if there's any questions that I address those. So I'm going to take a quick look over here. Getting some, again, great feedback. Thanks everybody for the nice comments in there. Mike says, does Form Ranger now work with the spreadsheet in a shared drive? This was an issue in the past. Okay, thanks, Mike, so much. And great to see you here, Mike. It was such an absolute pleasure to be up there for the conference to kick off the school year with your school district there. Thank you so much for having me, but thanks for being here today, Mike. So quick answer, no. The add-ons do not work in shared drives. They only work in shared folders. Now, sometimes I understand that can be confusing because Google, they sound so similar, a shared drive versus a shared folder. So just as clarification here, In Google Drive, you've got My Drive, and then you've got shared drives. Now, this used to be called Team Drive. So if you remember it from those days, it was called Team Drive. It's called shared drives now. Shared drives have a lot more permission settings than My Drive does. And at the moment, things like Autocrat, and I don't know if other add-ons have figured out a way around it, but as of right now, no. Like Autocrat does not run off of a shared drive. So when I set this up, you'll notice the folder I created for demo certificates, it's in My Drive. I didn't put it in a shared drive. So this would be true here as well. If you want to if you want to use an add-on like Autocrat to run and do a merge, the permissions are not friendly from shared drives. Unfortunately, it's not able to properly run from that. Now, what we're going to do when we set this up from scratch is we'll create a folder in our My Drive, and you could share that folder with no problem at all. You could take this folder and you could say, I'm going to share this folder, and you could share it with, the 5 other members of your tech team or whatever, and give them access so they can go in and add new sessions and things like that. And that's what I've done with the folks at my county office, is I've created folders for the different departments, and I've simply shared those folders with them. Yeah, it's just a limitation of the way shared drives are. They're just, the permissions are so much more intense on a shared drive that the add-ons cannot function inside of there. So, all right. Let's see what else, if there's anything else in the chat that we need to chat about. We've got another question here. Let's see, if a person attended but incorrectly enters the code, can we just correct that on the spreadsheet row? So this is from Michael, and Michael, thank you for that question. We are going to chat about that. That's what I'm going to call troubleshooting. So that's the last bullet that I have in here, which is when things go wrong, and they will, what can you do about that kind of stuff? Yes, Michael, we will talk about what to do if somebody puts in the wrong code or the many other things. Short answer is yes, absolutely. You can correct that. If you're like, oh, I know they were there. Yes, you can go in and you can fix the code and you can rerun the merge for them. I'll show you how to do that as well. All right. I think that's it. I think we can go ahead and move on now to the whole setup from scratch routine. So at this point, hopefully you've got a good feel for the point behind the system and how it works and what it's all about. Now let's go ahead and set it up from scratch. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring up another account here. Let me find this one. There we go. So this is a demo teacher account that I've got set up. And this account has nothing set up. I don't have copies of the templates. I don't have Autocrat running. I don't have Form Ranger running. I don't have those things set up yet. So this would kind of be like starting from scratch. And so the first thing that we need to do, and at this point, I'm going to pull directly from our agenda document. On page 2 of the agenda document, you'll see the templates. And so the first thing I need to do is I need to make copies of the templates that we're going to use. Now you may say, well, Eric, I thought there were 3 templates. I remember you showed there was a document, there was a form, and there was a spreadsheet. And all I see listed here is a spreadsheet and a document. Where's the form? Well, that's one of the beauties of the way Google works, is when you make a copy of a Google Sheet, if it had a form attached to it, you automatically get a copy of the associated Google form as well. And so it's always important to make a copy of the sheet, which will give you the form. If you make a copy of the form, you don't get the sheet. It works the other way. So the sheet has everything in it we need, and it will generate the associated Google form as well. Oh, by the way, Katie said, can we watch this video again later? Yes, Katie, this is being live streamed on YouTube, so it is being recorded on YouTube as well. This exact same link you used to get to this, you can always get back to it. That same link is also at the top of the agenda, and it's also on my Control-Alt-Achieve blog post about this as well. So yes, this video will become a recording, and the exact same link you used will let you watch this again if you need to. All right, so what we're gonna do is we're going to start off by making a copy of this Google spreadsheet template and the Google Doc template here. And again, you can get to these templates in this agenda document, and you can also get to them on Control-Alt-Achieve. If you head over to Control-Alt-Achieve, this is the blog post with the video we've got. The same templates are linked in there as well. So whichever way works best for you. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to click on the spreadsheet template first. Give that a click. It'll say, do you want to make a copy? I'll say, yep, go ahead and make a copy of that. Let that do its thing. And then I'll come over here and I'll do the same for the document. I'll click on here and I'll say, let's go ahead and make a copy of that as well. So at the moment, I'm getting a copy of the spreadsheet template and I'm getting a copy of the Google document template as well. So both of these are getting copied. Now, this is also copying the form. And so just hang tight. It is really there. We'll show you that here in just a second. Okay, so now I've got a copy of the spreadsheet template and the doc template, and the form has also been copied in the background. And again, these are totally free. You guys can make copies of these templates, do whatever you want with them. That's what they're there for. They're there for you to use. And again, modify if you want. If you want to do something different with it than I did, that's okay too. Okay, now that we've got the templates, let's go ahead and start running through the setup steps. So we need to create some folders that are going to hold these files. And so in my Google Drive, I just need to make a folder. I can call it certificates. You can call it anything. It really does not matter what you call it. That's completely up to you, but we need a folder to hold everything. And then we want a subfolder inside of that to hold the actual merged certificates, because you keep a copy of all of the certificates when they get merged and you need a place for them to go. So let's go to my Google Drive and let's do this. So I'm going to create a folder in my drive. Let me zoom in a little bit on this drive so we can see this just a little bit better here. There we go. So from my Google Drive, I'm going to click New Folder. And I'll just make a folder called certificates. And again, it doesn't have to be called certificates. That's not critical. It's whatever you want to call it. And then inside of certificates, I'm going to make a new subfolder. And for this subfolder, I'm going to call it merged certificates. There we go. And so now I've got a folder called certificates. And then inside of there, I've got a folder called merged certificates. Okay, it looks good. Now, what I want to do is I want to put those files into that folder. So, I've made a copy of my attendance sheet, the Google Sheet, the Google Doc. It also copied the form. I want to find all of these, and they're most likely just sitting in the root of my drive, because when we made copies, that's probably where they went. I want to drag those over into this folder I've created. So let's hope they're there. If not, this is going to be a short webinar. Let's see. They should be here. Let's sort by last modified, and we should have them here. They should be here somewhere. Well, if I don't see them there, I'll go to recent. That'll be another way to find them. There they are. I found them in recent. They're in my drive, but if I'm not finding them right away, so there you go. There's a good point. If you can't find them right away, just go to recent, because they just got copied. So that'd be a fast way to find them. And there they are. Copy of the document, copy of the spreadsheet, and there's the copy of the form. I promised you it would automatically copy with the sheet. So I'm going to grab all three of those, and I'm going to move those into my certificates folder. All right, there they are. At this point, what I probably want to do is, rename them. You can name them whatever makes sense to you. So I've already got the document open and I've got the spreadsheet open. Let's go ahead and open up the form as well. So now we'll have the form, we'll have the spreadsheet, and we'll have the document. And tell you what, let's zoom in on these two, just so that's easier to see these. Let's go about 150 there. So there's the document, there's the form, and there's the spreadsheet. And these are the copies. So for example, if I don't want it to be called copy of template, I could come in here and I could call this, demo certificate template. And I could call this one demo attendance form. And then I could call my spreadsheet demo attendance form responses. Again, you can call them anything you want. Maybe name them after your school district, name them after your building, name them after your organization. In this case, I just called them demo. All right. So there we go. Awesome. We've got our, whoops, let me zoom. I forgot I had changed my zoom here as well. Here, I'll zoom back out to 100 because I'm zoomed in otherwise. There we go. All right, excellent. So I've created the folders. I've made copies of the template files. I put them into the folder and I've renamed them. Now it's time for us to start customizing them. Everything from here down through here is a one-time setup, and the same for all of this stuff here. This is all a one-time setup. Looks like a lot of stuff. You would only ever have to do this one time. So it can be like a little intimidating, but just be aware. Once you've done it once, you're done. You don't have to do anything with it after that. You're good to go. So let's go ahead and talk about what we would do to edit each of these 3 files so that they're ready to go for us here. So the first thing is, we want to edit the certificate template itself. And so what we would mean by that is going in and filling in whatever information is appropriate for your particular school district. So for example, where it says sponsored by, you might want to put in, Demo City Schools or whatever your organization is. Where it's got, the people who are the approvers, you might want to change those, well, unless John Doe and Jane Smith work at your school, my guess is you're going to want to put in whoever that would be. I'm going to leave these alone here, but yes, you could put in, whoever gives the approval, on your certificates there. Your logo, maybe you want to change your logo over here instead of it, having this, box. Obviously, you can just delete that, but you could come here and you could replace that with another image. And usually that's pretty easy to do. If you click on the placeholder picture there, if you go up to replace image up in the top toolbar there, you can then like upload another logo or search the web or wherever you want to go. I'll just upload one, probably have something sitting in my, I think I've got, yep, there it is, there's the school. That's the one I used earlier. And so there's, there's the school. And of course I can, shrink it down if it's a little too big, which it is a little too big there. There, if it's a little bit better now. Awesome. And really that's pretty much it for the document. What you don't want to do is you don't want to change any of these placeholder text fields here. Anything that has the placeholder little symbols, the greater than and less than on either side of it, that's there for the mail merge that's going to happen. So don't change your first name, your last name, title, date, time, cert date, objectives, and hours. Don't mess with that because then the merge won't work. But you can certainly customize this, change the color, change, the fonts, whatever. But that's it. That's the first thing. And that's it. You'll never have to touch it again. Once you got that doc set up, forget about it. It's over and done. All right, let's move on next to our Google Sheet. So our Google Sheet is next. So we'll bring our sheet over here. What do we need to do with our Google Sheet? Well, a couple of things. First of all, we need to set up Autocrat. Autocrat is the add-on that does the merge. It's the thing that does the mail merge, that takes the certificate, takes their information, merges them together, and sends them out. This is, again, a one-time procedure. It does look a little intimidating here, but it's really not bad. You do it once and then you can forget about it. So first of all, when we go to our Google Sheet, we need to make sure, do we have Autocrat installed? If you don't, it's very simple to set up. Autocrat is an add-on. So what we're going to do is go to our sheet, go up to the add-ons menu and see if we have Autocrat installed. I don't in this demo account here. So from add-ons, I'm going to click Get Add-ons, and Autocrat should be at the very top. And there it is. It's one of the most popular add-ons out there. There's loads of add-ons here, but there's Autocrat at the very top. I'll give a click on Autocrat, then I'll click on Install and give it permission. It'll ask for some permissions here. I'll click allow, and that's about it. Should be done pretty quick here. Yep, and there it is, all done. So that's installing Autocrat. Now, if I go to the add-ons menu, Autocrat shows up there, and now I've got it. Now, you might already have it installed. If so, you don't need to reinstall it. If you've already got it, you're good to go. But this is where we'll go to get it installed if we didn't have it. All right. Well, now the next step is to configure Autocrat so that it can do the merge for us. So what we'll do is we'll launch Autocrat by clicking add-ons, going down to Autocrat, and then clicking open. Give that a moment, let it open up. Takes it just a little while to open. Excellent. And when it opens up, you're going to see existing jobs. Oh, there's already a merge job here. Well, that's because we copied my spreadsheet that already has all of this set up. So this is ready to go almost. It needs a little bit of tweaking, but you don't have to start from scratch. You're not building this merge from scratch. There's already a certificate merge inside of Autocrat. What we're going to do is we're going to click on the pencil icon to go in and go through the 9-step wizard. And these are the 9 steps to configure Autocrat. A lot of these we don't have to change, but a few of them we will have to. All right, so let's go through the 9 steps. So what we're going to do is with Autocrat open, we're going to click on the pencil next to certificate merge to edit that job and go through the 9 steps. Okay, step 1, just give a name to your job. No need to change that. Actually, I would suggest not changing it because the title is incorporated into these columns over here where the merge occurs. And so if you change this, it can mess up that. So don't change the title. Just leave it as it is. It's perfectly fine. Just a certificate merge. So nothing on step 1. Okay, step 2, we do need to do something on step 2. And every one of these steps are all listed out here in the document. So step 2, we need to pick our template. Our template is the copy we made. So this one called demo certificate template. That is the Google document that I want for the merging. So on step 2, I need to click where it says from Drive, and I need to find my copy of the certificate template. So let's do that. Let's click from Drive. And if I don't see it right away, I can just, well, there it is. Actually, I found it pretty quick there. We could always go in and sort it by date or whatever, but there it is. It's right at the top, demo certificate. You can switch into list view if you need to see there. Yep, there it is, the demo certificate that we made a copy of. So I will select that and then it'll pull that in and we'll click next. All right, step 3 should not have to do anything on step 3. All step 3 does is it maps the placeholders here to the columns in the sheet. And that should already be done for you. No need to change that. You may want to check. Feel free to scroll down and just make sure every one of them is mapped up. And this is, again, why we don't change names of things. You don't want to change the names of the columns or the names of the questions because they're already all matched up here. So nothing to do really on step 3. Just make sure it looks okay and hit next. Step 4, don't really need to do anything here either. This is the name that's going to be given to each certificate when it gets merged. It's going to be certificate of completion, your first name, your last name, and the title of the session. If you want to change that kind of stuff, you can. There's no need to, though. It's perfectly fine the way it is. If you do want to change those kind of things, again, you have to be really careful that you don't change any of the placeholders if you want them to still be used. But if you want to change this instead of certificate of completion, maybe you call it certificate of attendance. That would be fine. That's not going to hurt anything. That's not going to break anything. But if we accidentally took out like one of the less than or greater than signs, yep, that's a problem. If we did a typo and we did that, then it wouldn't find that first name anymore. So just, for the most part, I'd say you could just leave this one alone on step 4, unless you want to do some minor cosmetic changes to the title of each file as they get merged. So we'll leave it alone and we'll go on to step 5. Now, step 5 is going to be an issue because it wants to know where do we want to put the merged documents, when the certificates get merged, where they want to go. Well, it remembers my template folder. Well, you don't have access to my template folder. So the first thing we need to do is clear out where it thinks we want to put these. And so what we're going to do first of all is we're going to hover above here and use the trash can to get rid of the folder it thought it was going to put it in. And instead, we're going to click choose folder, and we want to point it to this folder we created called merged certificates. Remember when we made that folder? That's the one that's going to hold all of the certificates as they get merged. So what I'll do is I'll click choose folder, and I'll grab the merged certificates folder. And now that's the destination. Awesome. Let's hit next. Nothing to do on 6 at all. We're not using this feature a bit, so just hit next. 7, nothing to do here. This is saying when should a merge run? Only when the approved column equals yes. They have to type in the right code to get the yes there. So this is saying only run these if somebody actually got approved. So no need to change that. Hit next. Step 8. You don't really need to change anything here, but this is where you can change the email message that goes out. So what happens is this basically says, okay, when the merge runs, it's going to send out an email with the subject certificate of completion, your first name, your last name, and the title. Then it's going to say, see below for your certificate of completion. And it's going to give them the title, the date, the time, the hours, the objectives, and the follow-up. If you want to change some of this wording, that's okay. Just again, watch out for anything that's a placeholder. So if you wanted to put in something like, something about your school. Thanks for attending, our, Wilson High School, training session or whatever. If you want to put in something that's specific about your school, if you want to have, at the very bottom, thanks from the tech team, and people's names or whatever, that's okay. But just be careful that you don't change the placeholders because those are needed to do that merge in the email as well. So I'm not going to change anything. I'm just going to leave mine alone, but you certainly could change some of the cosmetic text in here. We'll just hit next and we're on to our 9th and final step. Now this one looks like there's nothing to do, but there actually is. So here's the thing. Triggers, you heard me mention triggers earlier. Triggers are necessary to run any sort of automated procedure. So for example, let's say in this case, we want the certificates to get merged anytime somebody submits the form. Well, that's what this first option is, run on form trigger. That means, yes, every time somebody submits a form, run the mail merge, as opposed to run on time trigger, like every hour run and send out any new certificates. I don't do that because I find people get confused. If they submit it, they expect their certificate right away. So I always have run on form trigger set to yes. Here's the problem. Because this is a copy of my template, the trigger looks like it's set, but it's actually not. It's just remembering the old setting. You technically need to turn the trigger off and back on to reset it. If you don't, it's not actually set. And this is a one-time thing. All I'm going to do is click no, and then say okay, and then click yes and turn it back on. So watch what happens. I'm going to say no, turn off the trigger. It says, you must enable triggers. Do you want to enable triggers? Yes, I do. So I'll hit yes. Then I can turn the trigger back on because now it actually understands that I want to do triggers, and I'll hit yes to turn it back on. And that's it. I'll click save, and you never have to touch it again. That's it. I know that was a lot to set up, but as far as the Autocrat goes, but that's really it. As long as you've gone through that, your merge is ready to go. We do not need to mess with this. It'll run completely on its own now. I can close out of Autocrat and forget about it. Now, I can always open it back up if something's not working right, and I can double check the settings again, but there's no need to. Once you've got it set up, it's good to go. I did see a question about changing the language. Yeah, that's totally fine. Yeah, absolutely. Again, the only thing to watch out for is anything inside of those parentheses, or excuse me, the greater than, less than symbols. Those need to match. And so, the form, where it says, code, well, that's important, and your first name and your last name and things like that, because those are going to get merged. So again, I would not change those placeholders, but you can certainly change the text around them without any problem. All right, let's keep going. We're doing really good, guys. I know we're running a little bit over. I'd anticipated an hour. Heads up, it's going to go a little bit longer, not much more. We honestly don't have much more here to do, but I just want to give you fair warning. This one's going to run a little bit over that amount. But anyway, so we've got Autocrat set up. Now we just manage our sessions. And you've already seen me do this, so I don't really need to do much with this. I mean, I can just copy, the one I did earlier, just paste that in to show you, but you saw me do this already. Basically, what you're going to do is you're going to come in here and you're going to put in the titles of your sessions, the dates, the times, how many hours they're worth, and you're going to put in the objectives. And again, we already talked about that, so I don't know that we really need to talk about that anymore. You probably remember that from earlier. The key again is title, date, time, hours, objectives, and some kind of a code. It could be a word, it can be numbers. As long as you get those six columns set, that's what you need to do. And so now you would start going in and filling in your sessions. And you can fill in sessions for the whole year. If you know every single month, the first Tuesday of the month, we have a meeting, go ahead and set it up. Just don't check the box yet. Just don't make it active. You can set all of these up ahead of time, have them ready to go for when the time comes. And again, if you want a follow-up message, you can put that in there as well. Now, it does have a sample session up here just to kind of show you. You probably want to deactivate that. That would just confuse people. You probably want to deactivate that, and then you want to choose the one that you've added in there. All right, so that's the next step, is fill in all of your sessions and check the ones that you want to make active. All right, guys, let's move on to the next part of the setup, which is our attendance form. So we've done our document, we've done our spreadsheet, we set up Autocrat, and we've thrown in a sample session. Now we're going to go to our form. Now, again, there's not much you need to change here. Pretty much everything is good to go as it is. What you might want to change, you could change the title if you want to put the name of your school up there. If you want to change the directions, that's okay. And you probably want to come down and change the list of the school districts or organizations. So if you want to put in different schools or buildings or whatever, that would be fine. Other than that, really nothing to change here. All of this stuff is pretty much good to go just the way it is. So title, description, school districts, color, sure. Change the theme if you want. That's perfectly fine. You can click on the theme button and pick different colors or a header image. Totally fine. That's not going to break anything. All right. So next up, while we're in the form, we now want to set up Form Ranger. Again, this is a one-time procedure. You'll never have to do this again. You just got to go through once and get it set up the first time. So let's take a look at setting up Form Ranger. So Form Ranger is the add-on that grabs the sessions from your active sessions here and pulls them into the form. So we do need to set this up once. Again, just like Autocrat, if you don't have Form Ranger installed, you do need to install it. A little bit different in Forms. To install it, what you're going to do is go up to the three dots button in the very top right-hand corner. And from there, if you go down, you'll see a section called Add-ons. And so it's just hidden away a little bit different. It's under the three dot buttons and then add-ons. And if you look to the add-ons, Form Ranger should be pretty close to the top. There it is. There's Form Ranger. We'll give a click on Form Ranger and we'll click on Install, and we'll go through that same process that we did with Autocrat. Select our account, give it permission, and that should be it. All right. Looks like it should be done. I think we got it done there. All right. So now let's see if it's there. Yes, it is. Awesome. So now that I've gone through and installed it, again, from the three dots going down to add-ons, you can find it and install it. Now we want to configure it. Again, one time. It's a one-time procedure. We do need to configure it to tell it, hey, I want you to fill in this session question with the active sessions from our spreadsheet. So what we're going to do as a one-time procedure is we're going to go up to the puzzle piece up here at the top. That's where your active add-ons are at. Again, the three dots puzzle piece, that's to install new ones. The puzzle piece here is the active add-ons. So we're going to click here and click on Form Ranger. When it opens up, we're going to click on Start, and that will open the panel here. Now, we do need to go through a one-time setup here. It's pretty straightforward. What we're going to do is we're going to come here and we're going to tell it that for the question called session, which is this question here, the session called question, we want to populate it from a range. So we're going to check the box there and say, let's populate this from a range. And then we don't have any ranges yet. So we're going to use the little plus button next to here to say, we're going to set up a new range. Where is it going to pull this information from? So we're going to come here and click on the plus button. And it's going to say, where should this data come from? Well, it needs to come from our spreadsheet. What's the name of our spreadsheet? demo attendance form responses. So there it is, demo attendance form responses. We'll pick our spreadsheet, should be at the top. And then once we pick our spreadsheet, it has to say, where are the sessions listed? Well, there's a bunch of sheets inside of our spreadsheet. The one that you want to grab is the one called active. Now, you may remember I said there's some sheets that are colored red. That's one of them. If you look at the tabs at the bottom, there's a sheet called active. And what it does is it pulls in any of the active sessions from your sessions tab here. And so what we do is we tell it, grab the sheet called active, and the only column in there is the unique ID column. So that's good to go. We'll click next. And if we want to give a name to this, we can call it active so that we don't forget what this range was. And that's pretty much it. At this point, we're just going to click save and populate question and give it a moment, and it should do it. It should now grab the and it did. There it is. My session now says September 1st, engaging ELA activities. The last thing I need to do before I close out a Form Ranger is to tell it to keep doing this every hour. So at the bottom of the Form Ranger panel, you'll see every hour, there's a little flip switch. I'll switch this to on, and that's it. Now, every single hour, Form Ranger is going to go to the spreadsheet. It's going to check this active tab, see what sessions are currently active, and then it's going to populate this session question here. And that's it. You can close out a Form Ranger and never have to touch any of it again. And there we go. That is the full total setup of that. We have set up our document with any customizations we wanted there. We installed Autocrat and we configured that. We added a session here. We configured our form to look specific to our school district, and we have set up Form Ranger so that it will run every hour. At that point, it's really ready to go. You can now give the link to your attendees. So from my form, I would simply go up to my eyeball button up here on the top, give a click on that. And when that opens up, I will now get the live version of the form. All I have to do is come up here and click copy, and I copy that link for the form. That link I can now do whatever I want with. If I want to take that link and use a service like Bitly or TinyURL or TinyCC and make a short version, that's great. If I want to make a QR code out of it, that's great. You can even use the Google QR code option here. If you weren't aware of that, if you go to the far right side of your address bar, there's a QR code button here. If you click, that's just part of Chrome, and it will generate a QR code for you. So you could make a QR code and download it for people to use. The point is, we simply want to give this link to our attendees. Put it in your agenda documents, put it on your website, put it wherever you want. The point is, they're not going to be able to do anything unless they know the code anyway for the session that they've attended. And so it's fine for them to have that link, however you want to get it out to them. So there you go. Give the link to them and kind of let it go from there. So what we're going to do now is we're going to finish up by talking about maintaining the system and troubleshooting. So what if, how do we keep this going? And what if things go wrong? So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to jump back over to the other one because I've just got more data in here. It's a little bit more interesting looking because I've got, more data in this. So let's talk about maintaining the system. So now that it's been set up, now that I've done all of that, what do I need to do going forward? Well, not much. Basically, all you might need to do going forward is in the Google Sheet, periodically add new sessions to the Sessions tab. So on occasion, you need to come here to the Sessions tab and you need to add new sessions in. What else might you need to do there? Well, you may need to activate and deactivate sessions by checking or unchecking them as needed. So on occasion, it's like, oh, that one's an old one now, let's uncheck it. And hey, I added a new one. Now let's activate this new one. Okay, what else might you need to do? What about old sessions that are no longer necessary? I may be a temptation to delete them, but I would not recommend that. I would say hide old sessions by right-clicking on the row number and choosing Hide Row. Now, why am I saying that? So let's say this Google Tools for Struggling Students is an old session. We don't need anybody to fill it out anymore. You may say, well, Eric, can't I just come in here and just say delete and delete that row? Yeah, you can. You certainly can. But the problem is this row has all the information about that session. And so the problem is when we go to run our reports and stuff, it won't know all that information. It won't have all of the details like the number of hours and things like that. And so I would not delete any of this because this is sort of like a database now. What I would do is if you're saying, well, Eric, I'm tired of scrolling down to get to my most recent session, just right click on the row header and just say hide row rather than delete row. And there it is. It's just hidden. You just don't see it anymore. It's still there so that, I've unchecked it. Nobody's going to fill it out anymore, but it's still there so that when I run my reports, it still has like the correct date and time and hours and objectives and all that stuff. And the code is still there, all of that. Now you can always unhide by going over here and clicking on the arrows to unhide the row as well. That would be my recommendation, would be don't delete anything out of here, simply hide the stuff that you don't need to show up anymore. Okay. And then what else might we need to do for ongoing maintenance? Maybe in the Google form, maybe we might need to refresh the session list. Remember I said Form Ranger runs every hour. Well, if you said, oh, shoot, I forgot to activate the session and people are just about ready to, come to my session and, oh no, I don't have an hour before I need them to fill this out. Remember, like, let's say, let me turn the struggling students back on. Let's say we need to turn that one back on. Well, remember, my form does not have that. It just has these 4 sessions, sessions 6, 5, 4, and 3. It doesn't have session 2. If I check this and come back over, if I wait an hour, it's going to appear. It'll just automatically, boop, it'll just show up automatically. If you can't wait an hour, remember, all you have to do is go to the form, click on the add-ons button, click on Form Ranger, and just hit start. And that's it. That will re-trigger it. You can then close right out of Form Ranger again. All you have to do is just open it up and look here. There it is. Google Tools for Struggling Students has been pulled in. So if you need to kind of manually make it do its thing, you can go in and do that. So that's it as far as ongoing stuff. Add sessions, hide old sessions, activate and deactivate them, and maybe, trigger Form Ranger if need be. We've already talked about the reports, so we don't need to go through those again, but this explains what each of those reports do. So the last thing really is just troubleshooting. What if things go wrong? And they will. I guarantee you they will. What are some things that might happen? Well, one thing that might happen is the wrong code. Yeah, somebody's going to type in the wrong code. You can always check that. And what you can do if you go to your spreadsheet is you can see there's a column D, code. That's what they typed in. Then over here, column R is real code. This is pulled from your sessions tab here. And then column S is approved, yes or no. It's checking their code against yours. So here the person typed in 487, but the code was 478, so they didn't get approved. Now, it could be that you're just like, oh, they didn't put in the right code, so they didn't get a certificate. And that's it. You can just let it be. Or you can say, yeah, I could see they were there. They just, fumbled when they were typing it in and they transposed 2 of the numbers. You can go in and you can fix it yourself. So for example, you could just come here. Again, don't change this over here where it says yes or no. Change what they typed in. Say, you know what? I'm going to fix this for you. I'm going to change this from 487 to 478. And when I press enter, watch what happens. Now the no becomes a yes. Now that does not automatically run the mail merge. We'll talk about how to manually run it here in a second. But the point is you could go in and fix it for them if you needed to. What other common mistakes? Yeah, wrong email address. I guarantee you it's going to happen. Even though it's the person's own personal email address, somebody's going to say, I swear I filled out the form. I didn't get anything. Well, go in and look for them and see and say, actually, you typed in, .co instead of .com. It happens, and in such a case like that, guess what? Yep, you can go in and you can fix that too. So if they typed in the wrong email address, you can put in the correct email address for them if you need to. Now, if that happened, you're going to need the merge to rerun. So again, I'm going to show you that in a second, but that is certainly possible. So it could be the wrong code, could be the wrong email address. In addition to that, sometimes, guys, I'm sorry, Autocrat just fails. I love Autocrat so much. It is such a wonderful tool, but sometimes things go sideways and it doesn't run properly. Well, if that's the case, what you're going to notice is these 4 columns at the far end won't get filled in all the way. So if these 4 columns are filled in, it ran. If it didn't run, they're going to be blank, or they're going to be partially filled in, like it'll say starting. You'll see the word starting here, but that's it. Nothing will actually ever run. So if you ever need to manually rerun Autocrat, you need to kick it and get it going again. Okay, here's the idea. What you want to do is find the row that it needs to be rerun on and make sure all 4 of these cells are empty. The cells for the merge column, make sure they're empty. So like, let's say, demo student 5 here, let's say their email address was wrong. And I went in and I put in their correct email address. I could come here and I could highlight the 4 merge cells for that row and I could delete them. Now, when I rerun Autocrat, because I fixed their email address, it's going to rerun the merge. It will only rerun the merge if the merge cells are blank. So if something went bad, you need to delete out the 4 merge cells for that row, of course, after fixing whatever went sideways. Now I've got this one here who had a bad email address, and I have cleared out their 4 merge cells. And then this person who had typed in the wrong code, I fixed their code for them. And so now they need theirs. So how do you actually make it run instead of it running on its own? It's really simple. All you have to do now that these 4 are cleared out and these 4 are cleared out, all I have to do is go up to add-ons, go to Autocrat, click open. And once it opens, all you have to do is click the play button, the little run button on the Autocrat job. And that's it. It'll just run. See this button right here looks like a play button. That's the run job button. So you can, at any point you need to, open it up, click run job, and now it's going to check through and find, hey, there's these blank rows. And look at that. It says starting. Now it's starting to run on those 2 rows. And now it's catching up on the ones that it needed to send out. So in this case, this person had the wrong code. Now they've got the right code. And this person would say they had the wrong email address. Now it's resending it to the right email address. That's it. Pretty good. And I think that's it. I think we did it, guys. And I am sorry. We did go a little bit over there. I apologize for that. But tell you what, let me do something for that. Let me fix this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull up, believe it or not, I've got a sheet for our session today, and I'm going to change the hours to 1.5 because this one a little bit longer. So we'll change this to a 1.5 hour session. So what I've done is to give you guys certificates for today, and I'm going to take questions here. So don't worry. We'll still take a few minutes here to take any questions you guys have. But what we're going to do is, if you would like to, you certainly don't have to, but if you would like to get a certificate for this session here today using our exact same system we just used, here's a bit.ly link that'll take you to a Google form for this session. So bit.ly/techint, like tech integration -cert. That link will take you to a Google form. And the code for this session is 725. That's the random code I picked for the session we're in right now. So if you want an actual, real, honest to goodness certificate for the session you just watched, please go to bit.ly/techint.cert. And tell you what, I'll copy that and put it in the chat for you guys as well. That's going to take you to our Spark form so that you'll actually get a certificate from the Stark County ESC. I will copy that link and put it into the chat for those who would find it easier to get it there. And then for today, the code that I've chosen for this session is just 725. So feel free to fill that out and get the code typed in and get your certificate for you. All right, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to look at the chat and see if you guys have any questions. I'll take any questions you guys have. I'll do a couple of little housekeeping things before I do that. Just want to remind you that everything we found here, everything we saw here today can be found at bit.ly/Kurtz-AutoCert. That link is what gets you to the Google document that we've been working through this entire time. This Google document has all of the directions, but at the top of it, it also has things like a link to the YouTube video that you're watching right now, so you can watch it again later, and a link to my blog post on my blog, which has the same content there as well. And of course, this document has a link to the templates that you need to make copies of. So all of that can always be found there. And of course, please check out controlaltachieve.com as well, where I share all of my resources if you haven't checked that out in the past. But what I'd like to do now is take a moment to see what sort of questions we have popping up that I can address for you guys. So let's take a look at the chat and see. I saw there was a question about installing Form Ranger, but it looks like that got taken care of, so that's good. Pam said she just created a certificate, so that's great, awesome. Jade is asking, is the code a mandatory feature? So quick response in general to Jane and everybody is nothing here is mandatory. Nothing here is mandatory. You could change any of these features that are here. I chose to put the code in simply as a way to say, okay, if we want to have a little bit of validation, a little bit of guarantee that somebody actually attended the session and they're not just filling out the form, a code is an easy way to do that. Unfortunately, people are people, and I hate to say it, but sometimes there could be somebody who wants to abuse the system. And all they're doing is they're going to the form and they're just spamming the form. They're going to the form and they're filling out their email and saying, and I'm going to get a certificate for this one, and now I'm going to get one for this one, and now I'm going to get one for this one. You say, that doesn't happen, does it, Eric? Yeah, it does, unfortunately. There's folks that'll just go through and boom, 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 boom. They'll just, fill out every single one just to get their, to get those sent to them. Well, you can see that. I mean, if you look in here, if suddenly you get the same person appearing 10 times in a row with, 30 seconds in between each one of them, well, clearly they didn't really watch the videos or whatever. And so the idea is we just want a little bit of verification. And so as I talked to some other educators and folks at my work, we said, what's something that's the least intrusive thing we can think of? And it seemed that a code kind of worked. So the idea is just like I did, where I said, okay, guys, thanks for attending my session. By the way, the code for today is 725. As long as, you can give out a code to somebody, then they can fill that code in to prove that they were there. Can somebody still game the system? Of course they can, yes. A buddy can tell somebody else, hey, the code is 725. Yeah, there's never a perfect solution. In the past, I've done other things where I had a quiz at the end of it. I would do like a 5-question quiz, and that's fine too. There's nothing wrong with that. But I did that for a lot of webinars where you had to answer 5 different questions about the session. The point is, this is just some way that I can say, listen, I've done my part. I've done what I could to try to make sure this is valid and the person really attended. So anyway, that's why I did the code option there. Let's keep looking down through the chat here, seeing some thanks. That's great. Thank you guys as well. Fantastic. Oh, this is so nice. Thank you guys for all the wonderful, the question about what is the code for this session. Again, that is 725 for this particular session. All right. And then Jane, as far as do they have to put the code in my setup? Yes, in my setup, they do. Now, could you make it so they don't have to? Short answer is yes. You don't have to have this code built in, but you'd have to make a change to this spreadsheet. So no, the way the sheet is set up right now, so I'm sorry if I was confusing about that. The way I have it set up, yes, they have to type in the right code for the way I have it set up. Do you have to do it that way? No, there'd have to be some modifications here. It's nothing too critical. It's not like a massive modification, and I'd be happy to help you do it. If you decide, hey, Eric, I want to use this, but we really got to get rid of the code thing, I'm happy to show you how you could remove the code and then take away the need for the approval here. It would just be a pretty simple change in the Autocrat setup. That one step, I'm sure you know what step I'm talking about. If you go into Autocrat and you go back into editing it, I think it was like step 7, maybe, the one where it talks about when does it run the merge. Pretty much if you took the code out and you went into the Autocrat settings and you go into edit the settings, I think it's like step 7. Yep, step 7, the merge conditions. You would have to change this. Right now, it will only merge if the approved column says yes. You could change it to say something like if the email address is, not null, meaning not empty, like at the bottom. You say, as long as there's an email address, go ahead and run it. You could change that if you needed to. Anything else? I don't see anything else in the chat, and we are at an hour and a half, so we have officially earned that hour and a half certificate that you guys are going to get there. So again, I just want to say thank you guys so much for being here. It has been a pleasure. I can hang out longer if anybody needs me to, but I'm going to go ahead and wrap things up at this point and just say thanks again. I plan on doing more. I used to do a lot of webinars, usually about once a month. I would do them, and I've done some different approaches to getting content out to people over the last couple of years. If these webinars are valuable, though, I'm happy to return to that. Most of my focus has been on very short videos, little short 5, 6, 7-minute videos, rather than these longer in-depth ones. But I'm happy if this is valuable for people to maybe do a once-a-month webinar and start bringing that kind of stuff back. But we'll see how this one goes. And thank you again so much for being here today, everybody. And just let me know how it goes. If you do make modifications to the system, send them my way so I can see what you guys have changed. If you've got suggestions on, hey, it would be great if we had a different report, don't forget there's these reports that are built into the system as well for the evaluations and, the user attendance and the session attendance and so forth. Feel free to let me know any suggestions you guys have, and I'm sure I'll continue to modify these in the future. Other than that, thanks so much, guys. Take care. Everybody have a fantastic day. Thanks so much.